All right, just testing real quick, making sure the stream's working. Let's see. Okay. Not sure. Okay. Hey, Boosted, what's up, man? You ready to hear more Axie Infinity stuff? All right. Okay, I'm going to start off today with my same disclaimer that I always start off. Again, this does involve a blockchain game here, but this is not meant to be investment advice in any way. Even though these blockchain games have real assets, NFTs, that are digitally owned and exist. So they are real and can have value, but I'm not trying to give anybody investment advice as to what to do, and especially today, because we're going to be talking quite a bit about values and land values. So there's a secondary market for all of these assets, both inside of the Axie Infinity site and also inside of, well, I guess outside of the site. So in a different secondary market that's like it's like we call it OTC, over the counter or whatever. But yeah, no, I'm not. Although I do think, obviously, I'm involved with this Axie game, and so I think that it's a pretty good idea to be involved, or I wouldn't be doing it. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about just the different types of land. So here is the land map. So each one of those little teeny tiny squares that you see, that's an actual plot of land. I won't get into the specific amounts of all of these different types of land, but we have savanna around the outside. I guess that's orange. I'm a little bit red, green colorblind. Oh, let's see, something's wrong. Let me fix that. Well, I thought I was being tricky. There we go. Yeah, that's much better. There's the land map. Okay, and so the outside edge there, around the outside, I think it's orange. I'm a little red green colorblind, so I can't always tell. That's the savanna area. The greenish is forest. White is Arctic. And then we have the mystic, which is like a bluish. And then a black ring around the red middle. The black ring is the Genesis land. And then the interior, the red, is Luna's Landing, which no one can own that just yet. But right now, the things that can be owned are the Genesis, Mystic, Arctic, Forest, and Savannah. And so what I have here is just the initial cost. Yeah, Genesis is the place, man. Genesis is the thing. So what we have here is just kind of the initial prices for the chests that you could purchase the land with. Savannah was 0.05. These are all in Ethereum. So I'll call it either ETH or ETH, depending on my mood. So 0.05 Ethereum. And then you go to Forest, which the multiplier there is Forest is 3.2 times the amount of the Savannah land. And the Forest is 0.16 Ethereum. And then almost 3 times, just a little bit under 3 times, you go to Arctic, which was 0.45. And then just a little over 2 times is Mystic, which was 1 ETH each. Genesis you couldn't buy. You had to just roll that. There was a chance to get Genesis with each chest you purchased. And obviously the more expensive chests had a higher chance of rolling a Genesis plot. At this point, they all were rolled out, and now you can only buy them on the secondary market. Well, all the chests are bought out now. You can only buy any land on the secondary market at this point. Someone bought out all the rest of the Arctic chests. Then you'll also see some pink areas, and I'm not quite sure what the color is. Maybe tan or something. Hey, what's up, Odin? Good to see you, man. And those are the roads. Those are kind of mostly the square-looking areas that have special features as the roads. The pink ones are you'll see, I'm going to go through it, but they're either resource or chimera spawning points. And then you have the river, which is the water blue that goes through. And this is quadrant 1. I guess I should make that clear too. So this map is going to be basically 4 times the size of what I'm showing. I'm just showing what's available right now. So this is kind of the upper left portion of the total map. All right. So next, I just want to talk about what makes a plot rare or not rare or valuable or whatever we want to say. And first, it's obviously type. And this has been verified by the developers, by the game makers on multiple occasions that yep. And I don't know if I'm getting to those particular. Yeah, this is the left side of the map, right? Exactly. So first, when we evaluate, like, what is the value of the land? Like, what's its worth? Well, right out of the gate, we know that the chest price indicates the level of value that the particular piece of land is going to have. So those multipliers that I gave on the prior page here, those are pretty much going to tell us, like, when you take that multiplier for savanna to Arctic, for example, Arctic is going to have 9 times the value of a savanna plot. And that's really important, obviously, when you're looking at land and trying to decide what you want to purchase. So one way of evaluating is saying, very first, the type of land. That's going to have a big impact on what type of resources are going to generate from the land itself. And I'll show a picture of some of that too, so we can kind of see some concept information, pretty recent concept information about what might be showing up on our plots of land. But you're going to expect that either there's going to be more quantity or the value of what's generated on your land is going to be significantly increased based on the type of land that you have. So Genesis land, obviously you'd expect to have the highest value, then Mystic, then Arctic, then Forest, and then Savanna. So, I mean, people ought to be keeping that in mind. If you're not buying 9 Savanna lots, and again, we'll talk about connected stuff and some theory there, because it's all just theory. If you're not buying 9 Savanna lots, then you're probably not getting the value just by type that you'd expect to get out of a single Arctic. You'd have to buy 20 Savanna plots to get the same value that you'd expect to get out of a single Mystic. And I think people have lost track of that in the secondary market, so that's kind of why I'm making a big point of that. So type matters a lot, and we've been told that multiple times. Like, that really is going to have a huge impact on what these plots are going to generate as far as resources and value. Next, and I'm going to go through again some of the snips from the articles. This is location to the center of the map. And why? Well, because obviously those nodes, as they're on either Mystic or Arctic, or certain things that happen on Genesis land, those are all going to have significantly more rich resources, drops, and value. So the next one I would say is location to a public resource. Obviously, if you're close to a resource node, that plot would seem to be worth a lot more, because if you're right next to it, you're going to be able to go right to the resource node without having to travel there over other people's parcels of property. And we've been told that as you go across other lands, there's a chance that you can have spillage, is kind of the way they've talked about it, that you will lose some of your resources, some of what you have, to other land plots as you go across. So, for example, if you have a plot that's right next to a resource node, like this guy right here, that presumably has a lot more value than, say, this one that's an Arctic plot. But yeah, that has value because it's 9 times the value of savanna, 3 times the value of a forest. But this guy's kind of in the middle of nowhere, so can't easily get to an Arctic resource node, for example. So the main public resources that we have here are the roads, the rivers, and then when I say type of node, like we've already seen in the concept art that a savanna node is not going to be as resource rich as a forest node, which is not going to be as resource rich. We haven't seen an Arctic node, but we know that that's going to be the case. But we have seen a mystic node. We've seen this one up here, and we know that those are at least shown initially to have significant increased resources. And river crossings are going to be interesting too. So we know the roads that we have here that go across the river, for sure we can cross there, but the verbiage says, at least initially, that you can't cross it except on bridges. Now, can we construct bridges somehow? Not sure. So again, this is just kind of the clip from the actual article, so you can see that. There's a couple things I want to point out here. So when we're talking about chimera hunting expeditions, we may be talking about, oh yeah, boats would be freaking out. Well, yeah, we're seeing vehicles, so yeah, totally, dude. I think that's right, Odin. I think stuff like that's going to for sure happen, but it probably won't happen early. But I look at the shells. I guess this is one thing to point out. The shells seem to be a really big resource. Like a whole page of the concept art was dedicated to shells, and the only place I can think of those shells coming from, it's got to be the rivers. I know that they're, at least initially, it looks like you could make fishing ponds or something like that, taking up 4 plots in order to do that. But presumably you've got to have water in order to get sea creatures that would have shells. One thing I don't think has been pointed out a ton here is that it says some events will be gated and only accessible to landholders that own Mystic and Arctic. And that's fascinating to me too. So that seems to mean to me that they will have a checking system for certain events that says you won't be able to participate in this particular level of event unless you own Arctic or Mystic. And then we have the statement about Genesis Land being the hosting area for special content like bosses and raids. Pretty awesome. Okay, so let's look here at the specific differences that we see in the public resource nodes from the concept art that we have. And again, I just want to point this out. Like, we have a few different styles of rocks in Savannah, and then we have a few different, it all looks like, not different, I should say, just these bushes, which I am guessing gets you the lowest level of wood, and the rock pillars get you some form of savanna rock. And it kind of looks like to me like there's ratings of savanna rock and ratings of savanna wood. But you see here, like, I can't remember if this is a forest plot that bordered on this. I don't think it was. I think that there's a couple things that you can see on the actual owned plots that are a little different than in the resource node. But again, I'm expecting that a Savannah resource node is just going to have stuff, but it's not going to probably be that high a quality. And then you look at the forest node and you see a more diverse set of trees and bushes and rocks and stumps and you know, like an egg-shaped rock here. Just more diversity, you know, like I'd expect almost a little more than 3 times the diversity. And then the Mystic, we don't have an Arctic yet, but here's the Mystic, and you just see way more. Okay, Jiho, tell us, boats. Yes. You can't just say a word. Jiho. Yeah, we did see vehicles. I pointed that out, but I also pointed out that we didn't necessarily see boats. Yes, we're going to go seafarers if you play Dominion. But yeah, I'm good with mariners, whatever it takes. So always interested to hear more information, Jiho. Okay, so again, talking about land values. So in this sense, what I'm kind of trying to point out here is location to resource nodes is important, but also it appears, at least from the concept art, that location to better resource nodes is important as well. So, you know, I sit and think about the current secondary market, and I sit and look and ponder about what's available. This is, oh, by the way, this is on the secondary market. The snapshot I've taken here is the currently available land that's for sale in the secondary market on Axie Infinity. Now, this doesn't show all the bundled property, but it does show all of the single lots that are for sale. And so we talk about sometimes like outer river, you know, everything outside of the river, and inner river. And I don't know if that's just kind of an arbitrary determination that we've kind of made so far. But it does seem to be useful to talk about just in general location, because you are going to have to cross the river to get to into the interior if you're outer river. So when you look at the outer river, you think, okay, well, in quad 1, what's available outer river? Well, there are 3 nodes, period. Hey. And these 3 nodes are Savannah. We saw that one. Icky, not much there. Forest, a little better. There's some Arctic by the forest node. And so, you know, if landowners don't take care of their land and they leave their resources on there for more than 24 hours, then there's going to be some Arctic resources for the taking if you're in that area. But presumably the best outer river node is going to be this Arctic node up here at the top. And kind of the reason I'm pointing that out is this doesn't show it quite so much, but there's some bundles up here too. There are a ton of Arctic plots for pretty dang good deals up here in this area. So with not too much travel in this area, you're going to be able to get to an Arctic node, and that includes the forest, which look at all that forest over there for sale. I mean, it kind of blows my mind, actually. I mean, if people are thinking about hopping in on kind of a lower cost level, hopping in here really close to an Arctic node, again, I'm just guessing, I'm just giving my opinion. That seems like an excellent spot, an excellent way to go. And so I am kind of surprised that like these Arctics to me seem like pretty good in a way. Sorry, I'm kind of like shifting thoughts here, but you can also access the river, right? So presumably you could, depending on how travel works, you could pop on a road, hop over onto this dude's forest plot, and then do some fishing or something, if that's the way it works. Don't know for sure. Maybe you can fish right from the bridge. So you just pop down here on the bridge, do some fishing, and then pop back to your spot. Or maybe you teleport, do your fishing, and then hop back to your spot. we're not completely clear about all that yet, but it appears to me, again, that the best area for gathering resources, this could be a pretty popular node in the outer river area. Inner, you have all these little nodes, which are awesome. These ones are not going to be so awesome because they're savanna. The forest ones are going to be pretty good. The Arctic ones are going to be nice. And the mystic ones are going to be, pretty much the best. I circled this area because this is where we've got all these big nodes. So I'm kind of thinking having plots that are kind of in this kind of area, maybe even over into here in Arctic, you're going to have a pretty good access to some pretty decent resource nodes, is my bet. And Odin, I'm certain about that. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like I'm confident that the better resources are coming from the nodes that are attached to the other lands. And that's kind of, again, I'll just go back to that real quick. That's why I showed this. I'm absolutely certain, based at least on these prototype drawings, that the different types we've got savanna, forest, and then mystic clearly show us that there's better stuff in the mystic nodes. And then the question is like smaller versus larger nodes, right? And the question is chimera spawn points too. Like, how's that going to work? We've been told that summoning beacons are a possibility, dungeons are a possibility, but it's kind of seeming like those are more likely. I mean, it says that there's gated events on Arctic and Mystic, but I'm betting you're going to want dungeons to be on at least Arctic so that you're getting better creatures. I mean, I guess maybe easier ones will be on Forest and Savannah. Well, there's going to be some resources, Odin, on Savannah, but it sure looks like they're not as available, and maybe not as dense, and maybe not as good stuff. So yeah, and then the question becomes like, right, what do we get out of structures? So if you decide you're going to build some really nice trading post up here in the top left corner, I mean, boy, that'd have to be a really nice trading post based on what we're hearing about travel time to go up there versus, something here in this inner hub where there's lots of people moving back and forth, teleporting into a mystic resource. Yeah, mystic resource in order to get your good resources and your good chimeras, and then you're walking back, hopefully like here on this forest plot where you're having to come across the river. That's where you want your trading hub, right? I'm betting. I don't know. That's my thought, at least initially, but who knows? Who knows? So let's talk quickly about Genesis Land. So we know that that's going to be super rare. There's only going to be 220 plots. We know that there will be rare bosses. Yeah, Jen. That spawn on Genesis Land, and that these rare bosses, rare spawns, they will get a cut of all the resources collected on their land. So, presumably, if the Genesis landholders were to be smart and get together and make sure they were coordinated in how they were handling these things, this could be super good for all the Genesis owners, and super good for everybody, because they would be coordinated events, raids, and bosses, and would make it so, good coordination. I mean, if you've ever been involved in MMORPGs, you know how important it is to have raid schedules and all that sort of stuff. And not only, again, is it just to get a particular item that will help you do good in your clan and your guild. This is potentially real money. So roads, they become really important because of what we've been told is we get this 300% increase of speed when we're on roads. Can't cross rivers unless you're going across a bridge or unless we get boats. Jiho, let us know. And then that's why being close to a road is actually pretty important. Yeah, exactly. Sweet. So, roads do matter, and roads apparently can be built on land plots. And so, players are highly likely to have their own interconnected roads, their own road systems. Space requirements again. So the only one that I think that I've seen in concepts is, oh yeah, definitely. Roads near large nodes are going to be really good. And even though there's a faster speed across them, you're still going to want to encourage people to come across your land so that you hopefully are getting some spillage there. So this pond is the only one that I've seen as multiple space, but we've been told in many places that blueprints are important, that structures are going to be, blacksmithing and potion shops and all sorts of cool stuff. We just don't know what's going to be required in order to build those. We see the food and the potion shop, and they look like they take one plot, but we haven't really seen a lot of structures that require multiple plots other than this pond. I mean, I'm getting a feeling that fishing and shells and stuff. Hey, thanks for the follow, man. Thanks, Arctic. So again, it's kind of looking like fishing and the shells and all that sort of stuff. Water play is going to be pretty important. And I don't know if rivers are going to require like a 2x2 like it's shown here, or if you're going to be able to have like your own little inner river. I don't know. So what types of structures? We've been told of we've all kind of envisioned it as the 10x10, the 6400 block, which is now different. We know that it's 16x16. I'm pretty sure it's 16x16, and not 8x8 like we thought initially. So we know that structures are going to have a base set of demands to be functional. We also know that some things are going to have specific blueprints that actually you're going to have to apply to the Lunasia High Council in order to get the blueprints. Meaning, I think, you need a dedicated player. Some structures are going to require some significant player involvement. And, I think that's freaking awesome, but you probably can't just let something sit. Some of the structures, I think it's going to require some maintenance. So we want to make sure that whoever gets those structures is somebody who's going to be committed and play and make sure that the structure is maintained well. Yep. So again, looking here, so what are these going to be able to do with these structures? You're going to have markets and shops. We're going to get the ability to have tokenized items and skins and blueprints, and some of those are going to be obtainable, at least in the initial formulation, by quests. And yes, Odin, 16x16 is, yeah, HOA, nice. Exactly, Arctic. So, yeah, 16x16, but it looks like there's 15x15 that's buildable. But here's some of the, at least initial crafting structures. Blacksmith. I don't know about the inn, but maybe that's something to do with like the food. Fishing, the resource production, I'm assuming that's like the fields and maybe hot springs and things like that. But obviously kind of sky's the limit, right, guys? So I'm thinking that as we talk with the development team and as things kind of move along, we'll identify different structures that ought to be there and figure out a way to get them into existence. So we already know, based on what we've said, we have this Chimera summoning beacon concept. access points for dungeons. And so we have the Chimera drops. We know that some rare resources required for building structures will be dropped by Chimera. Some will be more common and some will be rare. So here we see a mine. It looks like on an Arctic plot, but again, all that's like prototype design. Don't know for sure what it's going to take. If certain Axies will have the ability to just, hack on those rock structures in order to get stone. At least that's how I'm thinking it will be initially. And then the battle tent probably lets you put some extra Axies on a piece of land. So we'll be able to host our own structures like this potion shop. Some will have certain resources and blueprints will be required to upgrade and customize structures. So there will be some customization. At least that's the initial idea. And then Mystic Axies, it sounds like, may have an impact on what items a shop can create. Yeah, that's what we're planning on, man. We're going to put those cute little things to work, huh? And initially 3 Axies can be assigned, but it can be upgraded to have more. Now this was from the most recent one. And I may have already passed it, but the one I was looking at was that Axies are going to be required for certain structures to have them run. But yeah, this came from the most recent land play update. And this one's saying initially they want to have a storage unit, a town hall, and a portal for travel for dungeons and resources. And then they'll add potion shops, blacksmiths, farms, fishing, etc. But they want to get those initial ones done first, which absolutely makes sense to me. Here, I wanted to just point out again, like, it's going to take time to build bigger structures that are more advanced, and they can be just huge. And if this is, again, a square, then that's going to be 10 by 10. Yeah. This is something that I think gets missed a little bit. It's kind of one of those hidden little gems. It says, Mystic items provide incredible boosts, but here it says, and will be required to build certain incredible structures in the future. So, if you don't have your Forseti or your Pinaka or whatever, you might want to think about picking up maybe one of each Mystic statue. If this holds true, this is kind of indicating to us that we will need to have these particular statues in order to build certain incredible structures. So again, don't know, but I'm certainly glad I managed to acquire one of each of the statues just in case. Yes, Silvergate looks awesome. The axe one, that's not Silvergate, I can't remember which one that one is, but the one that's an axe, that looks interesting to me as well. Well, they all look cool. I'm interested to see how those all play out. Okay, so that's primarily what I wanted to go through with structures and land. And again, I'm not trying to make these like super long. I don't want them to be to go too long, go too in depth. Happy to go in depth, I guess, but I don't want to take up tons and tons of time. But I wanted to end with just kind of going through the highest or the best value Axie plots that I see. And I'm just going to do Arctic and Mystic because I'm really I have some Savannah and I have some Forest, but Arctic Plus is kind of where I'm looking at right now. So I just wanted to point a few out in case people are interested. So I think this one right now is probably one of the best deals on the market. Yeah, Forseti, Forseti doesn't sell for very cheap. Some of them are down to 0.12, but Forseti seems to stay above 0.16 constantly. I've never seen it below 0.16, and I've paid attention. But I think this resource node, this is a large resource node adjacent, inner river, Arctic plot. I think 0.73 is probably a really good price for this one. I kind of value Arctic nodes a lot higher than that. Adjacent, especially for the large node. Then this one is an inner river plot it's actually pretty far in, but at 0.35, I can't believe that one still exists. Yeah, that's probably why too. This one is inner river, close to the center, 0.35. I just think that one's a stupid good price. This kind of reminds me, although it was closer to a bigger node, that Jiho bought just to turn around and relist for a higher price. And then this one, I think that outer Arctic node is going to be of particular value. So all the deals up there are just driving me nuts. I picked up 6 at 0.3. Yeah, exactly. But right now it's just kind of overloaded. We need more exposure with more players, I think. And then the Mystic ones. I hate even posting this one, but it is the best deal, I think. Really close to a large Mystic node for 1. So chest price, that's just a good deal. And then the next ones are just on nodes for 1.5, which to me is almost an instant buy because I think it's understated its value by quite a bit. But again, things aren't moving tons right this minute. I think that's going to change as soon as we actually see some gameplay. But those are kind of my take on what's best values right now. I updated this page too. I just wanted to point out, I guess Coco's the main force behind Axie World. Man, that's got amazing tools, extremely useful. Binary assets, he put up the new, just need the spark. But binary assets, he put up some great information on land, just kind of like how it all breaks down. Henry's doing amazing. I think he's in the process of putting another tool together that's going to be awesome. I don't want to say anything until it happens. Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. I just want to, all these community content creators, they really need shout outs. And so I think I kind of feel obligated to do it. I think it's a wonderful thing. Chief and Axie GG, wow, everything those guys are doing. And Chief's one of the first people on there giving information to new players. It's awesome. The MetaClan, what a great experience. Ex-Human, I wanted to shout out to him. His article is what got me, the one that was in Bankless. It's the article that got me interested. And then Cloud White, he's an awesome dude doing a lot of awesome stuff for Axie too. So anyway, that's Baronar's take for this week. Thanks for hanging out with me and having fun doing it. So I'm going to keep on keeping on. And I'm thinking next week's going to be Luna discussion. So right on, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with me. Have a good night.